Hi, I'm Michael McBride, host of Veritas Views. Today's episode is all about ambiguity, responsibility, and the stories we tell ourselves when a signal is not clear. First, in Unpack That Text, we take on one of the great modern stressors, just checking in. It's a tiny phrase that can mean almost anything. Is it warm? Is it passive aggressive? Is something wrong? Is nothing wrong? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. We talk about why vague messages create so much emotional labor and why ambiguity tends to invite projection. Then, in the AITA, a dog eats something. The vet bill is huge, and the question becomes whether the owner can hold the dog walker responsible. On the surface, it's about money and blame. Underneath, it's about expectations, duty of care, risk, and what we can assume someone else should have prevented. And finally, we end with a research roundup where we look at a leadership shakeup and ask whether change at the top is really as promising as people make it like to sound. New leadership often gets treated like a reset button, but changing the person in charge does not automatically change the culture, the incentives, or the deeper system. 3 segments, 1 thread. When things are unclear, people fill in the blanks fast and often with more certainty than the facts deserve. Let's do it. All right, it's time for one of my favorite segments, which is Unpack That Text. And I'm going to take 2 of these little phrases, and even though it's called text, it could also happen in email as well. But I'm packing these kind of in the same conversation because I think they kind of function in the same way. So one is just checking in, and the other is thanks in advance. And to be fair, sometimes these are completely harmless. People are busy, they're trying to move forward, they're typing fast, whatever. But the reason these phrases, I think, get stuck under people's skin is because they can carry a hidden subtext. Just checking in can land like, why are you ignoring me? And thanks in advance can land like, you already said yes, and now you got to follow through. Like, why aren't you following through? But I'm curious to kind of play both sides. Like, as the sender sending these things, how can you soften it or anticipate some of the problems? And as the receiver, how can you let up on maybe not reading too much into a text or an email?
I think sorry, Michael, I'm going to throw an objection out there. I literally have never told someone thanks in advance for something they have yet to commit to. Thanks in advance is I'm low key committing you to this. And I recognize that I am low key committing you to this and you haven't committed to it. And if you tell me no, then maybe I have issue. Maybe I get salty about the fact that I really wanted you to do this thing for me and now you won't. That might be more my read on that. Thanks in advance in particular. Dan,
I,
am
I, I
I
have,
just off base
yeah,
here?
I've never used thanks in advance unless I know the person will do the thing and is committed to doing the thing. And I am asking them to, or giving them clarification on the thing that they've already said they would do. And like, okay, here's that, you said you'd write this email. Appreciate it. Here are the elements that we had talked about. Thanks in advance for doing it. But I wouldn't thanks in advance someone unless I knew that they had already essentially agreed to do it, and I was sending some sort of a
No, I disagree. Dan, I need a referral for XYZ client. I think you have some really good connections here. I would appreciate if you could just send me a name or two of someone that I could get in contact with. Thanks in advance.
but you know that I'm going to do it is the point. Like that I'm not going to
Um,
say I won't give you referrals. I'm going to either give you referrals or I'm going to say I don't know, but you're going to get a response from me, and you're not going to send that to me unless you are already aware based on our working relationship that I was going to do it.
so give me an example of a time when either two friends, two business partners, or even an individual sending this email request to a list serve, let's say, or a group of people, or on a group Slack or something like that. Like, when would you not use that with the assumption that, hey, I've put a request out there and you or someone will at least thanks in advance for responding and telling me, this is not the right pond to fish in, or here's the
All of
information you're
the
looking
other times, I don't.
for. I fail to see the difference here.
If you don't know that someone is going to do something, if you don't know that they've already agreed to do it or that they're willing to do it or they've made very clear through previous connections, relationships, et cetera, they're going to do something. I think thanks in advancing them is not okay. So I can't think of a situation where I would thanks in advance someone, or where I would be okay with being thanked in advance for something I'm not. Oh, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, because I need an example here.
I have in the past, usually, but not always, accepted requests to do a presentation. If I got a request to do a presentation, hey, Dan, we'd love to have you come out on Friday morning and talk to our group about relationships stuff that you've been doing. Thanks in advance. No,
I agree. That seems inappropriate.
no, you can't thanks in advance me. I'm not agreed to it, and I usually say yes. But sometimes I'm like, I'm too busy, or I can't do it the day you have it, or whatever. So don't
Yeah.
thank me. So no, I think
that would be. I appreciate you're considering this opportunity.
Right. I would never do this, and I would recommend strongly against anyone doing a thanks in advance unless they are very okay. Here's your. Let me give you the qualifying.
Yeah.
If you're going to, we see these videos of people who like do a very public proposal they propose at a hockey game, or they propose they propose in front of a whole bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
You propose in front of a whole bunch of people when you are like ironclad, rock solid sure that this person is going to say yes, even if they don't know it's coming.
Okay.
You thanks in advance someone in the same situation. You know they're coming through for you in some way.
But I disagree with you about the proposal thing, because the other reason you do it in advance is you paint someone, whether you're intending to or not, you paint them in a corner so that you get the yes, because you might be nervous that maybe they're not on the same page. But I think there are some personalities. I think there are some attachment styles out there that would absolutely draw for that. It's not a good strategy.
No, I think public proposals are fine. I think about they're fine if you know. I
agree, and you're talking about a psychologically healthy response and like assessment of that, but I don't think that's always what's happening. So it's an inappropriate use of it.
No, if you're TIAing someone and you do it wrong, and you do it when you're not sure, then you have done so incorrectly.
Sure. And so what I guess I would argue then in the reverse proposal idea is you've also done it wrong. Right. It's not right. Okay. So I think we absolutely agree on that.
I'm not throwing down a TIA unless I am certain this person is, or as certain as one can reasonably be, that this person's either going to come through or going to feel okay with, hey, Dan, actually I can't do that, and here's why. Okay, great, thank you. But they would have to I would have to know them well enough to know that they would be able to say that without feeling like
it's the purpose. Right, like the listserv. I mean, we're on a bunch of listservs, right? I need a referral thanks in advance. Like that's the fucking purpose of the listserv, right?
There are 538 people on that listserv. Yeah. Someone is going to say, "Hey, I got a referral," and you can say thanks in advance in that situation, because you're not thanking the entire listserv. You're thanking the person who eventually responds to you.
I like your frame on it. I really do. I'm not sure. I'm trying to be a little argumentative.
Yeah.
Because what you've said has just really surprised me. I use it a lot. I think I ultimately agree with it. I use thanks in advance, but I can't think of a situation where I use thanks in advance where I wasn't sure. I think that we can be relatively sure of our interpersonal interactions and boundaries and those kinds of things. And so I think we use thanks in advance quite a bit.
I don't use it much. But I use it again in those.
But I think you can. I think you probably could use it more than you personally do.
Sure.
So, Michael, what?
I'm gonna have to go through our back and forth emails and see how often you TIA me on these kinds of things. Probably not too often.
Not a lot.
But if you sent me an email saying, "Hey, what our monthly numbers look like," and I'd be like, "Thanks in advance," I'm going to find them. I'm going to get them to you probably in some non-timely manner.
Okay.
But you're going to get it eventually.
But the purpose of this conversation, to go back to what Michael asked, right, is it a passive-aggressive dig? So, no. Dan, what are the numbers? Thanks in advance.
I think it's not passive-aggressive unless you're being a dick about it. And maybe there are people who use it in that way. Sure, but I'm
because it can be read as, you should have gotten me those numbers 2 days ago. I'm asking you now because you haven't done it. It can be used that way.
Then don't use. No, it shouldn't be used that way though. In a good working relationship, anything you're doing that is indirect and meant to cause guilt or shame or feel pressured in a way that it's just not okay.
Yeah, I like I was reading, it's actually in the, and I'm looking at it now here, Rising Strong by Brene Brown. She talks
Uh-huh.
about this incident, and it's oh my God, it's so good, it's so relatable. She talks in her book about this interaction she has with a woman. She gets an offer to speak from this lady, but it's delivered in a way that feels unkind and unprofessional. So then Brene proceeds to, in the book, publish this email that she writes in response. And I was like, oh, you go. Like, it was scathing. It was beautiful. It was on point. And she talks about having this conversation with her therapist before she hit send, wise woman.
Mhm.
And her therapist said something that I have never forgotten. And I now sometimes use it with my clients, which
Mhm.
was, how did you hope your email would make her feel?
Mm.
And Brene said, small, like I felt when I received hers. And I was like, damn. So I think that's what you're getting at is,
Right.
and I think that's a really good question is when this person reads my email, we know email and
Mhm.
text messages are
Mhm.
notorious to be misread.
Mhm.
How do you hope the recipient will feel when you send them that information? Thanks in advance because I was supposed to get this 2 days ago is going to make them feel shitty and small, right? So let's not use it. Thanks in advance because I'm truly conveying gratitude.
Mhm.
Use it.
Yeah.
Gratitude and a certainty that this is within the boundaries of
Right.
our relationship and my reasonable expectations that this is something you actually can accomplish, as opposed to, hey, Dan, I have a filling. Thanks in advance for helping me take care of that. I'm not that
I
kind of doctor, right? That would be
yeah.
outside your
I
scope of competence.
yeah, and I honestly can't think of a time where I have felt someone TIA'd me out of line.
Sure.
For whatever reason, I just haven't that just has isn't an experience that I'm carrying with me.
And I think that's where
So,
maybe you and I struggled to land with the intention of what Michael said in terms of let's unpack that. I mean, he thought this was going to be short. We were going to have like a 2, 3 minute conversation. We would move on to the next segment. And
he
you and
does
I are like
not know
down
what's
this rabbit
saying.
hole and analyzing it like psychologists and picking it apart like a therapist might. And we haven't gotten to the other one, which is just checking in.
Right.
And you keep saying TIA, which I think is a small stroke. Like, what the hell is going
It
on?
it
I am
it
so
is,
confused.
Transient
but
ischemic attack. Yes,
I
it's
got tired
bad.
of saying thanks in advance.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand.
I see TIA in posts and things
I
online,
do
and
too.
it every time I cannot think of transient ischemic attack. It's not good. But thanks in advance is what that means. So
I
just
should
checking. Oh, sorry,
I
go ahead.
should say what I had in mind was more like a boss to an underling sending this message, right? Like it
Can
come you
we
guys
can
are
we
talking
talk
about
about that person as a direct report and not an underling?
sorry, all right, whatever. I appreciate I like
I
that
was
better.
I was
Thanks
I
in
was
advance.
I was I was I was running through it in my head, going, "What's a better
Oh,
word than underlay?" Gail, I appreciate
sorry,
the
this
swiftness
is
with
a
which
little
you
off the rails.
with which you think, but yes, that
But
no, that's not okay.
you guys are talking about like peer to peer, which I totally respect and
Yeah.
understand, right? Like you guys have an understanding of that. But I was thinking sometimes in business emails or not generally text message, I was thinking of business emails are the like those kind of comments where they are clearly asking you, it feels, and
No,
maybe this is just
No,
me,
that would
right? This
not be okay.
feels like somebody saying, you should have gotten this to me before, and or
I
I'm
think that
adding
may
to your
be
pile.
anxiety.
Maybe, sure.
I think some advances, I would hope my boss saying, hey, I need you to draft this
Yeah,
email and get it sent out to whomever by Tuesday, thanks in advance, would be, hey, I'm asking you to do this, but I also recognize whatever, and
yeah,
I'm displaying gratitude. I have
yeah,
social niceties around this request because I could just demand it. I'm your boss.
yeah.
Send this letter, and I think that would be more problematic than the social grace of thanks in advance, kindest
Yeah.
regards. Have a great
Now,
day. Like that's a sign
I,
off.
as far as the just checking in, like it is a little bit less direct. It's often a reminder. I actually uh, Friday morning got an email about something that, and the person said, just bumping this to the top of your inbox or bumping this to the top of your inbox. I was totally fine with that because I told that person I would get this thing done on Tuesday, and it wasn't the highest priority, and now it's Friday, and they were absolutely correct in saying bumping this to the top of your inbox. And I looked at it and went, thank you so much for bumping that to the top of my inbox. Here's what I want. Bup, 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 bup. And they responded, thank you. And it was done. And I have no problem with those types of reminders. And I think we should be able to comfortably give reminders to someone that says we do it without having to be like cagey about it, or, just, and maybe just checking in is fine on that. I don't know how you feel about that, but maybe because I tend to let things slip a lot. Like, you're an intensely organized person and I'm an intensely disorganized person. So like when I get those reminders, I'm always like, oh, thank you. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
really
mean, I
appreciate
think
you telling me to do that.
I learned that bumping this off the inbox probably from you and just talking about communications, and I really like that because that
Yeah.
feels direct. I know I've done that to you at times,
Oh
putting
yeah,
this
you
top of the
have.
inbox, and maybe I was that person on Tuesday. I don't even know.
You are not. You
I
are
was
not
not.
the
I think
person
I
on
thought not, but I
Tuesday.
actually have something I'm
Nope.
gonna
Nope.
wait. I'm gonna bump to the top of your inbox here by the end of
I'm
today.
well aware.
And that is it feels like a direct way to say, like, hey, this is still an outstanding item, and that does not feel passive aggressive. Just checking in, I think, has a different tone, where it
Eh,
might be, I know you got a lot of shit going on. My thing is one of those things, and I really genuinely want to know how you're doing. This isn't passive aggressive. You didn't get my thing done. This is like, give me the context of what else is going on, because I
I
care
have,
about you. That's how it should be used. And
yeah.
if it's being used in a different way, then I think change your language, bump into this to the top of your inbox,
I,
or putting this to the
I
top of
think,
the text thread is perfectly appropriate.
we read things through the lens of our own world so
Mhm.
frequently. And because the lens through which my world operates is, oh shit, I forgot to do that, or I didn't get to that, or I overcommitted, and so I didn't get. So that happens with such regularity that I can't think of a time where I didn't go, oh, good, thank you. Okay, let me jot down that.
Mhm.
So I don't care if it's like even really like I I had a good friend who was an accountant, and he would send out a letter that said, we lost some of our invoice records, and just checking in with you as to whether or not you've covered your invoice, because we're missing a couple of weeks of records. And he did that for everyone who hadn't paid him yet. And I got that this was mail, because this is 20 plus years ago. I got that. I called him up and I'm like, you didn't lose any damn records. You know better. I haven't paid you yet. And he's like, yeah, but that sounds nicer. And then I paid him.
Yeah, but it's a little too
And even that
indirect,
didn't annoy me. Even that like transparent bullshit lie
right?
from my friend the accountant. Um, it didn't bother me, because I know that I let things slip and the money was there. I just hadn't written the damn
Yeah.
check to cover his
Yeah,
services for his business.
and I do think just checking in can be like poke, like we got some unfinished business to do. Like,
Hmm.
I don't wanna hard call you out here, but I think, I'm looking for some sort of response based on maybe something that's outstanding. Like, I think about even my kids, if they had a list of things to do and I don't know if they've gotten those things done, I might say just checking in, and meaning like, how are you doing on the list of things? I can
I got
think
no
of
problem with that.
a friend that I haven't heard from in a long time, just checking in. Not, are you mad at me, but like, you
Yeah,
seem to fall off the face of the earth. I'm literally just checking in.
I have no problem with it at all. But I tend to be a fairly blunt and direct person. So
Yeah. I'm struggling to see that this is necessarily nefarious. I do think it can be used in some communications that are indirect, and so then I might say, hey, check your use of it. But again, how do you want that person, the
well,
recipient, to feel
can
when they
we
get
can
that?
can we throw down a Gottman assume positive intent on this one too,
Sure.
and just not, and maybe they are going, damn it, you told me you get this done and you didn't, and I'm pissed off at you. But you know what? Okay, let me get it done.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
and
okay with it.
yeah, I mean, assume positive intent that the person isn't necessarily, dodging or ditching you either. Hey, just checking in because I assume you would have done this had it hit your radar. I'm just going to make it hit your radar again. Like, assume positive intent on both sides.
Yeah, totally, totally. But if it's me, I'm just gonna like, if someone who's listening is someone in my personal life and I haven't done something that I said I would do, send me an email or a text message or call me and say, "Hey Dan, just checking in.
Yeah.
Are you going to get to this, fucker?"
And
TIA.
Email is best.
Yeah. Email is best because it stays unread if I
Yeah.
don't, and I can easily mark it as unread, and it stays
Right.
at the top of my email
I
inbox
know you.
where I ignore it often, but it's there.
Fair.
I like that.
There.
I'll try to remember to
Aren't you glad you asked,
have
Michael?
that assuming
Yeah.
positive intent, which isn't
Assume
something we've
positive
talked
intent.
about in a while, but it's definitely a good reminder. I think it's definitely for me the anxiety and sometimes reading between the lines when I don't know somebody as well, maybe, and their intentions. But if you have examples out there in listener or or viewer world, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear from you in our mailbag.
Hey, Dan, you
Yeah.
know, we both work with individuals who have OCD, and it's been my experience that they really feel like maybe their brain is the problem, right? So they
Hmm.
come in, and when they talk to us, I think one of the first things I want to help them understand is what their brain has done is created a way to adapt to fear and uncertainty.
And one of the problems, and they took this out. I think they took the diagnostic criteria, not pointing to the diagnostic manuals behind me. They took this out. But for me, one salient feature of OCD for just about everyone is they say, doc, this is going to sound really crazy, but, and as soon as they say that, I have a good idea that what's going to come next is something related to obsessions, compulsions, something like that. And that's because they make you feel like you're like, and they use this word, not me. They'll say, I feel like I'm crazy. So they recognize that there is something there that isn't right, but it's hard to overcome it. And so they're
Right.
often fearful of bringing it forward.
Absolutely. These are intrusive, they're all-consuming rituals, thoughts
Mhm.
that really make it hard to live a full life in a way that you might see your friends and family live. So if you are struggling with symptoms like this, you certainly can reach out to us at veritaspp.com to learn a little bit more about what kinds of treatments are available for you.
Yeah. And OCD is treatable. People often feel like they've not been able to overcome it myself. I know that this isn't like I know I'm doing something that doesn't make logical sense, and I'm not able to overcome it. And it sometimes feels insurmountable, but it's not. Reach out. We can help.
Welcome back to the tried and true Am I the Asshole segment, where I get to throw a random scenario at Dan and Gail and see what they do with it. I always love this because I never know what comes out of them. So, you guys ready?
Always.
All right. This is one I've kind of held on for a while because it's a little strange, but it kind of made me laugh. So we'll see what happens. So the topic is, am I the asshole for asking my dog walker to contribute to my emergency vet bills?
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Your dog.
But I'm guessing he's going to say something like the dog walker, like walked in front of a car, and my dog got a
Yeah, or
broken
let the
leg with
dog
my
eat
dog
chocolate or something.
walker.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
something like that. Yeah, yeah. But let's hear the story.
Okay. This is what we got. I have a 5-year-old corgi who is sweet but constantly tries to eat unsafe things. I hired a dog walker found on Rover, which apparently is an app for
yes,
finding dog walkers. I didn't know this
yes.
existed, but I don't have
Oh,
dogs, so there's
okay.
that.
Not there yet.
She's generally been great, but there have been a few incidents where my dog ate something on her watch and I was not told. Last night, my dog vomited up bright orange seeds from a plant that can be seriously toxic to dogs. I rushed him, the dog, to the emergency vet, and now I'm looking at thousands in bills, and he was admitted to critical care due to the risk. I'm
Oof.
confident he didn't eat the seeds with me. The walker says she didn't see him eat anything and tried to prevent it from eating things like she always does. I'm furious and scared, and I'm wondering if I would be the asshole or if I'm the asshole for asking her to contribute to the cost of the bills.
Yeah, I stand by. You don't ask your dog walker to contribute to the bills. One, in a couple of things, you're probably not going to get far, in my experience, those people who are using Rover as a means for employment and sort of this gig work. These are not people that have enough money to help cover your thousands of dollars of vet bills, so you're probably not going to get very far. This may be grounds for terminating your relationship with this dog walker because we don't know, and you're fairly convinced that it wasn't on your watch, therefore it must be hers. But, I think it'd be a little different if she was like, oh, yeah, man, I saw that and it was too late. And, I didn't know how to make him gag and throw it up. I'm really sorry. I think it's problematic that she's not routinely telling you that this dog is eating something. So, again, I think this is a separation of the relationship between you and this person you've hired, and perhaps even a discussion with the company that is supposed to vet these dog walkers. So, you go to Rover and say, hey, this happened, and get some advice about how to move forward, but you don't keep hiring someone that's not working well for you.
Yeah, I have a similar thought here, and part of it is I was expecting them to say something like the dog walk, like in this case the dog walker hasn't even, like, there's no evidence. It's just, I don't think the dog ate it on my watch, and the dog
Right.
walker is not saying it. The dog ate it on her watch. Like, this person doesn't even have any evidence, knowledge. They're making an assumption. So I think just based on that, I'd be saying, no, you can't expect this person to provide. At the same time, I would struggle with asking that dog walker unless we really had some clear negligence on their part,
Mhm.
that would make them responsible. And the person's and OP here says, like, my dog gets into shit all the time, and it's really hard to keep him from eating things he's not supposed to eat. You know, I, I am really struggling with the authority to ask the dog walker to provide anything in this situation.
I really don't think, if you asked and then let's say that person said no, and then you push it, right? And it goes into some sort of small claims court or something like that. Like, you're not going to get the support of the law behind the request because there's just not enough causality there.
Right. There's no way you're gonna get a court to, if you did sue the person, the court would be
Right. No.
like, show us proof. I don't have any
Right.
proof, but I didn't see it, and they're the only other person on my dog.
Right. No,
Like,
I mean,
that's,
it is chalk it up to unfortunate. Again, I think you go
yeah.
to the company and you say, this has happened on a number of incidences. Most recently, it's this. Do you have the ability to financially help and share the cost of this because blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. But that's in a best case scenario, and you probably aren't going to get really far with that
Oh,
as an ask, but you can't demand it out of the
you
personal pocket of the Rover employee.
yeah, you'd have to really be able to demonstrate this person was negligent. And as a dog, or in my case, cat owner, one of the problems is that from time to time you will have expensive, unexpected veterinary bills,
Mhm.
and that is part of the unfortunate. That is one of the unfortunate things about being a pet owner, is that
Yeah.
these expenses arise, and it sucks. It's awful, and I have had, like, unexpected vet bills at times in my life when I simply could not afford it. Um, and it's awful. It's and but I can't. I don't see coming out. I don't see an opportunity here to go after the dog walker for the
No.
bill.
But what I understand from the OP here is the anxiety that comes with a beloved family pet and the question about their viability, their health, their well being, right? You're in a state of fear and uncertainty for the animal, for the financial impact, right? Like
Hmm.
all of the
Hmm.
things. You're in a really terrible spot. So I don't think that this person is an asshole
Right.
for asking. And in fact, what I sort of like is they are not taking, to the best of my knowledge, based on the post, the way it was written, is
Hmm.
would I
Hmm.
be like, this is a preemptive check. I think the story I'm telling myself, or the story I'm making up here, is this person understands they're in a really emotional place about this. And
Right.
before deciding to take kind of shitty action, they are doing a quick, poll of the internet to get maybe some sounder advice and direction and keep them from doing something stupid. So for that,
Right.
I applaud them.
I do too. And the reality is, Did the dog get anything on your watch? No. Well, didn't anything on my watch? Okay. Didn't anything on my watch? One of those dog walker could be lying their ass off. We don't, but we have no way of knowing, and the dog's certainly going to fess up as to where he ate it. So,
Right.
yeah, and and maybe the dog walker did something they really shouldn't have done. We won't ever know. Um, but this isn't a situation where it's gonna. I would probably discontinue using that dog walker.
That would be my
I
outcome
would
too.
certainly discontinue using that dog walker because they're something may have happened on their watch. But I can't. I just don't see an opportunity there to go after them.
And were it to have been situation one, and you go, oh crap, that's one thing, right? But this person has a sense that the dog has gotten into things multiple times, so this is kind of a pattern. And so I understand why they think the dog walker is at fault, because they don't typically say, hey, by the way, Butch ate blah 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 on our walk today, and like he tried to consume a plastic bag. I don't know, right? And so they're not reporting it back. That's reason enough to say we're done, and this may be the capping incident, even if the dog walker wasn't there when the dog tried to eat said plant with weird yellow seeds and fruit or whatever. So I don't think anyone's an asshole. Well, I think maybe the dog walker is sucky if they're not attending enough to what's going on with the dog and or reporting it. I think when you are in charge of someone's little loved being, whether that be a child or a four-legged furry pet, family member, you're responsible to say, hey, the dog was up to this today, and keeping an eye and then sending that report back. I think the dog walker is potentially sucky for the pattern.
But here's the thing. It sounds to me like maybe the dog walker has shared in the past that these things happen, that the dog got into something. Because you said
I thought Michael said she specifically didn't share it.
Oh, I thought they'd. Oh, okay, they didn't share it because the OP knew that the dog had gotten into things while the walker was walking them. So if dog walker, if the owner had known that the dog got into things while the dog walker was walking, why are they still hiring them at that point? I mean, fire them.
Where's the threshold?
Not to blame them, but like fire them.
Right, but where's the threshold? It happens once, you're like, that sucks. It happens twice, damn it.
If you don't
the third time, but we don't know. It happens
once and you don't tell me, that's a big deal.
The big deal. So in your world, it happens once, you don't tell me. You, Dan Kessler, like, that's it, we're done.
If it happens once, you go, oh my God, I'm really sorry. I was having a chocolate bar. I forgot. I set it down. The dog finished it. It was like 3 squares. I know they're not supposed to have it. Fine. Okay, we'll talk. I'm not firing the person, but wait, no, let me finish. But that same dog that I find out that if somehow I get ironclad evidence that dog got into something and the dog walker did not tell me and specifically knew and didn't tell me, yeah, that's a one and done situation for me.
The one and done for you.
Yeah, if you withhold something that is really important for me to know about the health of my pet, yes, I don't have a lot of tolerance for like you endanger my pet or someone in my life and hid it from me.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, damn it. But I think I might have a different tolerance for a pet, but I don't know. I think my gut was I might say, hey, you ate, I know that Fido got into the chocolate bar while you were, sitting on a park bench and he kind of vomited all over the place. This is really important. These are the kinds of things I need you to tell me. And I might be really explicit in that situation, but the way you phrased it, I also can think of an incident in my life where the loved being in my home got hurt and it was a one and done. And I'm like, we're not fucking trusting you again. And I never left you in charge of that again. Right. So
let's say I'm babysitting your kids when they're younger.
Yes.
And you're like, they sometimes want to ride their bikes without helmets on. For me, that's an absolute, like, they are not to touch that bicycle seat without their helmet on. And then, like, I tell you, we all went bike riding. It was really a lot of fun. I borrowed one of your bikes, and the kids went on their bikes, and you're like, okay, great, and then you find out for later, the kids like, yeah, and Dan let us ride without our helmets on. You probably wouldn't let me babysit again. Not that I've ever babysat for your kids, or But I suspect if you said absolutely, you may not let them ride without a helmet, and I went, okay, sure, I'll let you ride without a
No,
helmet.
I actually probably would, but
You
I would
would?
say here's where it's different is the child falls on the bike ride, gets a concussion, then I think, no, we're done.
Fall or not? I said you don't have to
Yeah.
wear a helmet. You
I,
specifically
I think
said,
this is interpersonal difference in tolerance. You have
eh,
a very
fair
zero
enough.
tolerance there. I think I would have a squishier tolerance. That tolerance would be
Yeah, I'm not
tested.
buying it.
If
I'm not buying it.
and in the scenario with the dog, it's I left the chocolate bar and the dog could have eaten it versus I left the chocolate bar and
Mhm.
the dog did eat it. In your scenario with the helmet, everything was fine. In my scenario, everything was not fine. There was a fall and injury. I think
Yeah.
those are
All right.
different.
All right. I won't argue further
You would
about
not
that.
fire a dog walker if they left a chocolate bar out that your dog could have
No, I
eaten
would
but
not.
didn't.
But if they with intent, here's the difference is the script situation I described, there was intent. Dan, can I ride without a helmet? Yeah, sure. Don't worry about a helmet. I know your mom makes you wear it, but I'm not going to make you wear it. That's a different situation
I
than
think it's
we were
intent with
out
the result
biking.
of
No, no,
harm.
in your situation, then we were out biking and I suddenly realized, oh shit, no helmet. Let's go back and get helmets, as opposed
That's not
to
my scenario at all. My scenario is Dan was like, "Fuck the helmets, kids. I'm fun, Uncle Dan. Let's go bike riding." And then
no,
they
you yeah, you'd
and
fire
you
me.
don't tell me that
No,
they
you
fall and they get
no,
this concussion and
you,
I
you'd
don't
fire
know.
me
Then
either
you're
way.
not fucking babysitting again.
You'd
But I
fire
think
me
it
either
has
way.
to have the harm outcome with
No,
the
I don't
intent to
think
not
so.
tell.
I'm gonna disagree with yourself with your self perception.
All right,
I
I'm going to
think
intervene here because, um, yeah, this was one where like I read the post and I was like, oh my gosh, this feels straightforward. And then like the conversations in the comments just kind of went in all kinds of different directions. But what
Like
I'm
us.
hearing
okay.
from you is like, you shouldn't ask for this because you can't prove and you don't know for sure. And but they're not necessarily the asshole for asking. Just to be clear of where you guys stand.
Were they to
No,
ask for the compensation, I think would be problematic.
yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
think I think because they don't know and because there's no way of knowing, um, and I would have a problem with it. I don't know that they were an asshole, but I think they're out of line.
Yeah, I think the
But
only way you ask for it is if you have a nanny cam in the house and the dog walker is actively feeding your dog chocolate. Then you're like, do you cause this? Right? And then
I
you're
would,
not paying
I would,
half the bill, you're paying
what else?
the full
I have,
bill.
I gotta ask, as a little side quest here, what did the dog eat that had orange seeds? Like
Don't know.
I'm
But it's
trying,
mildly toxic, apparently.
but apparently
Mildly to
it's toxic.
moderately.
The vet must have identified it because they felt the need to put them in like doggy ICU. Like, what was would they ever get to what it
I
was?
don't remember them saying. I'll look for it here in a second. But
Okay.
so the internet decidedly was like, don't you fucking ask. You are an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
do not do this.
Okay.
You know.
I'm okay with
And
that.
they basically kind of confirmed a lot of the things or went along with the same things you kind of said is you can't prove intent or that they did it. First of all, if your
Yeah.
dog goes and snags things all the time, you don't know that didn't happen under your watch. And there were all these questions like, do you cage your dog? And then when they said no, they're like, you should cage your dog. And other people were like, no, you shouldn't cage your dog. That's inhumane. And like, there's this whole thing that went that way. But then they also said, when you have a dog that is known for this kind of behavior, you should muzzle them on your walks and you should have your
Okay.
dog walker muzzle them. And then there were all these conversations about whether muzzling was humane or not and whether that was the right way to go, right? And it kind of
Yeah.
spiraled out of control those ways.
No, I could easily see. I mean, in addition to the dog walker walking the dog, the person probably walks the dog. And I mean, if you're, okay, full disclosure, I think I've walked a dog 3 times in my life, and only with someone else's dog we were chatting. But like, I would assume that you're not at all times like, staring at the dog. You're like chatting. Maybe you're on the phone. Maybe you have like 4 dogs, dog walkers. I don't know if this is like New York City dog walker where you see the dog walker with like 14 dogs. There are going to be moments when this dog is getting into it with this dog, and you're going to be dealing with that, and then this dog is over here, and you're not going to see it, and that's an
But the
assumption,
operative
and you're
word is
assuming that
walking.
risk. If you hire dog walkers walking 8 dogs, you're assuming some degree of risk is going to occur when that dog walker's out walking, and they may not have seen it. I just don't. I don't see there being an opportunity here to go after
No,
those.
no, but the problem is
Yeah.
we're assuming that they're walking, which means if the dog is going to eat something, it has to stop. One would
No, it
think that
doesn't. Oh, it's a dog. You just,
it does not eat on the fly and keep
Oh
going.
yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen.
You've walked like 3 dogs in your life. What do you know? I question your
I know
authority
that
on
it
this.
doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for a dog to like inhale something.
But it usually sniffs it first. Like they don't just like gobble. Even no.
There was a brief period of time when I did live with a dog. Never walked it because we had a backyard and an invisible fence, and the dog just went outside, and I lived with, and Heidi, the dog, lived in the house. And I do remember the times when something hit the floor and Heidi had it like had swallowed it before, like it had bounced up in the air, and she'd inhaled it as she went by. And before it even had a chance to like land, and it wasn't even like a bouncy thing, it was like a piece of fish, like, yeah. And it like we did like it, and this was like an old beagle, like a really old, slow, fat beagle. This is not like a this. And she like so I think that it's quite possible that this dog inhaled something as it walked down the street. So I'm going to respectfully disagree with you from my very short few months.
You could be wrong.
Living
I'm
with
okay with that.
I will build to Dan's arsenal of evidence with a cousin's dog where there was a dead squirrel, and the cousin saw the dog look at the dead squirrel, and the cousin made for the squirrel, and the dog looked at the cousin, looked at the squirrel, and then inhaled the squirrel so fast that it choked on the squirrel and it had to be rushed to the emergency vet to have the squirrel removed from its throat.
And in that situation, I would not go. If that was what happened with this particular dog walker, I would not hold that dog walker. I mean, people, if we're talking, I think about dog walkers as being a city phenomenon. So, like, who knows what the hell is on the street in the city?
Sure.
And if this dog walked by, yes, it could easily have inhaled anything within a split second and not being seen. So,
and
yeah. Again,
the plant in discussion here is called a Kunti plant, which is a Zamia intergrifolia. It looks like a kind of a generic fern, kind of tropical plant, and they are native to Puerto Rico and the Bahamas, but they do live in South and Central Florida and Southern Georgia. And so people online quickly identified what it was, and they said, "You live in one of these places."
Of course, because
I love that. I love that, and probably so that we're talking about here is a dog walker in Miami.
Probably
with 6 dogs at the same time, and this pooch inhaled something it shouldn't have inhaled as it walked by. I'm sorry. Now in the scenario that I have decided is the correct scenario, the dog walker is 100% not at fault, and the owner is like. And if you're going to walk the dog in an area where there's a native plant or a non-native plant, but a plant that's everywhere that could kill the dog, you better take precautions. And hiring a regular old dog walker probably isn't the right precaution. Sure. You might have to add in something else to help. And I'm not going to even comment on whether muzzling is appropriate or not, because I'm not a dog person.
I will go along with that, although I will say the photos that people uploaded that were slightly altered of corgis wearing Hannibal Lecter masks were hilarious. Oh. So thank you, Internet, for that.
Link in the show notes, I hope.
All right. Well, thank you both for going down that road with me. Whether there are venomous plants or poisonous plants there or not, I appreciate your thoughts and considerations along the way. We'll see what next week has in store.
Can we talk about how many people come in and think that not sleeping is just a me thing, a personality trait, or something about their makeup, that I just don't sleep well?
Yeah, I hear it all the time where I haven't slept well. Even my mother said as a kid I wasn't a good sleeper, as if they're built to be like people who don't sleep. That's just not possible.
And what we have found is that with CBTI, or cognitive behavioral treatment of insomnia, those folks who think that they are just quote unquote bad sleepers can learn how to use their body's natural 24-hour cycle, to use that pressure, that urge to sleep that we all have, and to think differently and behave differently around their sleep, and make sometimes a lifetime of sleep problems better.
Yeah, and the reason I do it is because it's a really targeted treatment. It goes pretty quickly and it's
Mhm.
incredibly effective. If you want to learn more, go to our website, veritaspp.com. We'll have a link in the show notes for you.
Welcome to Research Roundup, where we're going to tackle a recent piece of research. Sometimes they're old. This happens to be one that's fairly hot off the presses. And I'll just turn it right over to Dr. McBride to give us an overview and start the conversation.
Well, let's start with the article title. I Won't Let You Down, Transformational Leadership, Anticipated Guilt of Failure, and Follower Extra Work Effort.
Can you
Right? It's
make
kind of a mouthful, but
English? Yeah, in like
in plain English, Dan,
yeah,
actually, when we
please.
were kind of getting ready before recording actually started, you said it beautifully. I'm actually going to turn it to
I
you.
did.
Yes. What did you
Okay.
say?
Um, Certain types of leadership can increase perceived risk of guilt later on, and that makes people work harder. It also makes them less healthy from a mental health standpoint, which may impact their work down the road. And this article really looks to encourage leaders to be more aware of the both short-term and long-term impacts. So at least it does when I read it.
Right. So at a really high level, right, this is important for leadership to understand. I think there's also an opportunity here for those of us who are working in spaces where we're experiencing what they call transformational leadership, right? We
Can you
may
define
be
can you define transformational leadership, please?
Transformational leadership is about when a CEO or an organization comes in and is really like shaking things up, doing things differently, kind of maybe even turning norms on their head a little
Hmm.
bit. And you find employees, I think, really excited about this kind of change, doing things different, right? We're creating major culture shifts. Dan, you have a look on your face.
Well, I could see employees be excited about the change, and now I get a little bit deeper understanding of where this article is coming from because change creates anxiety.
That's
And
what I'm taking. Yes.
yeah, and while they may be excited about the change, they also don't know what's coming next. And usually, I would assume that a transformational leader is going to be brought in when there is a need for transformation.
Correct. And I think some of the anxiety around that perception of change or that actual change is to some extent, we don't know the benchmarks and we're not being told what benchmarks we're being measured up against.
Hmm.
So, because I don't know, I just need to work my ass off and give
Right.
everything. And so, you see employees giving more, working longer hours, all of these kinds of things, which one would think, oh, this is so lovely. They're so loyal
It
and
is.
excited
No,
about
I mean,
this process. It is to their detriment, right? We create this imbalance in work and life and this anxiety around metrics and really a downturn in employees' mental health.
it is something I have seen that I find really interesting that there are some companies and industries that seem to, with intent, create some of that anxiety for their employees, with intent create some of that uncertainty that will push people to work harder, and
Mhm.
they likely benefit from that because that anxiety makes them work harder, makes them more productive, makes them get more shit done, which in the immediate is really good, could be really good for the company. So what's wrong with that?
Right. Well, you can't do that on the backs of your workforce and see
Why
their
not?
mental health decline because we already know that poor mental health in your employees actually in the long run hurts your company. It declines profits. I mean, we have data to show that your company does worse when your workforce is experiencing illness of like the mental health type. And of course, mental health problems also increase physical health illness. So your employee workforce is less well overall, pulling
Right.
in other research, right? Not this is beyond the scope of this
Absolutely.
particular article.
I could see,
So,
however, the temptation if things
right.
are not going great in a business and you need to demonstrate to shareholders, board of directors, et cetera. You want to prove to them that you're turning things around. I can see the temptation behind creating some of this ambiguity that would create some of that anticipated guilt that might spur on profitability or productivity, potentially at the expense of. And we would hope that leaders would look at their corporation as a whole and say, we're looking for long-term change, and for this company to thrive, or this organization, this kind of other organizations, I'm assuming as well, nonprofits, et cetera. We want this organization to thrive, not just in the short run, but also for years and years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a vicious circleness to this because when you have employees who are feeling anxious and unsettled and they're working harder, they begin to rely on their leaders more, right? So now we have leadership being impacted in negative ways, right? And then it slows that growth. So really modulating growth, going upward, right? Engaging in transformational leadership. This article is not suggesting that this is a whole cloth bad thing. It is saying with some guardrails, watch the language that you use, right? Not don't let us down, but let's all figure out a path toward a win here. What would feel like a win to you, that kind of thing. Making sure that if we miss a target, we're not guilting our workforce about this. We are, regrouping, addressing what was the miss, and then retooling, making sure that we are not asking our workforce to work these heroic hours and keep, and experience a wildly out of whack work-life balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also what I liked when I read the article, or when I read a summary of the article, I'm going to be upfront here about that, is the idea that setting really clear goals and measurable, attainable goals was associated with lower anxiety and higher long-term success in mental health. And this makes a lot of sense because we talk about this in other areas as well. If you create long-term, if you create clear goals for people that are measurable, attainable, et cetera, they succeed at higher levels and with lower levels of anxiety. So this makes intuitive sense given what given what we know about other situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think this is really interesting work. I think it's really it can feel kind of like a surprise, but like you said, when you really think about the mechanisms underneath it, maybe this isn't so shocking or revelatory in any way. I think we are simply sitting here today, once again asking organizations and corporations to be really thoughtful about how they make changes and the asks that they have of their employees and their workforce.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, thank you guys for unpacking that. And we'll be sure to include a direct link to the article itself. It is behind a paywall, but you can at least read the abstract and see some of the data there as well. And if you're like me, then you can acquire a copy by going through your local library and sending a request. So you can get the full copy that way.
Quick tip, by the way, anytime you see a journal article behind a paywall, you can reach out to the author, and the author will supply you with a copy of it. They don't at no charge, unless this is old information, Michael, and you want to correct me on that, or if there's a better way of getting it. But I've known that you can generally just email the article, the person who wrote the article, and they'll send you a copy.
I am really embarrassed to say that I have gone through the 23rd grade, and I don't know that I've ever done that.
Oh, I didn't say I've done it.
Oh.
I just say that you can do that, and they will
I
provide
suppose I just never thought about it. Yeah. You just blew my mind a little bit. I will often tell people use your library as a free resource. If I recommend a book or something to a client, it never occurred to me that you could email the author and they would perhaps send you a copy of the article.
Yeah, authors don't get a lot of.
Yeah, no,
the
you're
journal
right.
doesn't. Yeah, so they're happy to provide you with copies of their article in just about every case. Now, the problem, the library, you may get it quicker, especially if library has access to it, and you can just click like Michael did. However, if you
Our Michael.
Michael,
Aw.
I was going to use some like term of endearment, esteemed. I couldn't on the fly come up with anything. So I just like paused there.
I will echo what Dan says. Yeah, authors are often very happy to share any of the research with you. It's often about finding a reliable email address to connect with them. And though they have allowed a journal or a database to publish their article, they do not benefit financially from it there at all. So
That's
it doesn't
that's
come
what
out
I
of
was
their
about
pocket.
to. I was about to say that, but I was afraid that my knowledge was out of date on that. Yeah, they don't get. They submit the journal article, it gets published, but they don't get any money out of that, and so they don't. They're happy to send you a copy of the article.
Yeah,
And
they just want to disseminate the research, right? And
right.
and the thing for us, I know we're down a little different path here, but the thing for us is finding this in a peer-reviewed journal is what adds power and weight to this kind of research, right? You can email anyone and talk to them about the research that they're doing, but once it's appearing in a peer-reviewed journal, this means that there's extra weight given because others in the field have looked at this research, have determined that the methodology was sound, that the conclusions are reasonable, right? It's gone through this process, which is just, it's been vetted, as opposed to, you're emailing Hank at Hank's Boiler Repair about whatever research that they have recently done. I'm not disparaging Hank.
Do not throw shade on my curling team, Hank's Boiler Repair.
None whatsoever. I'm just suggesting perhaps if they have done research and it's not appearing in a peer-reviewed journal, I might question it. Not your curling team at all.
And just to be clear, the journals are not making it rich on these either. So I don't want to paint them at all as fat cats who are riding on the backs of authors by any
That
means.
is very
they are
Michael,
working.
that is very fair.
They're working hard to stay afloat in a lot of situations.
Sure, and they're often associated with professional organizations. And again, this is just one arm of what they do as a service to us in the profession.
I appreciate the correction, Michael, because I think I may have inadvertently implied that the journals are making a ton of money off these researchers, and no, they're running on a shoestring too. So,
for sure.
Well, thanks for bringing this to us, Michael. It was really interesting to think about.
Yeah, and I think the conversation afterwards was worth it as well. So thanks for exploring that as well. But cool. All right. Till next time. As always, the question is, what's the connective tissue here? What pulls these three things together? And for me, that's when the situation is ambiguous, people rush to interpretation. A vague text can feel loaded because our brains hate open loops. We don't just read the message, we supply motive, tone, and subtext, often based on our own anxiety or history. The dog walker dispute runs on the same dynamic. People want a clear answer, but responsibility is rarely clean. What was promised? What was foreseeable? What counts as negligence versus bad luck? Those distinctions matter, especially when emotion wants a villain faster than facts can provide one. And in leadership change, the same pattern shows up at scale. People often confuse motion with progress. A new leader can create hope, but hope is not proof. Until norms, incentives, and behavior change, the deeper system may still be the same system. If there's one thing to carry with you today, it's this. Uncertainty invites projection. Slow down before you decide you know what happened. I'm Michael. This is Veritas Views. Thanks for spending time with us.
You can follow Dr. Dan Kessler at Dr. Dan Kessler and Dr. Gail McBride at Dr. G. McBride. Oh, and you can find them both at veritaspp.com. We love hearing from you, so please review us on Apple, Spotify, or, well, wherever you're listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please review, like, and follow. Also, give it a share. This helps us reach more listeners. Credits. Tickling the Ivories, Matthew Reddington. Art, production, and design, bringing this show together with flair and finesse, Michelle Love. Recording and editing, turning chaos into something worth sharing, Michael McBride. Intro, outro, I'm Kelly Buttrick, a VO talent who just happens to be Dr. McBride's cousin. Cats, CJ, Linus, Sadie, and Griffin. Hosting by whomever lost the coin flip. Interruptions by all their children. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. If you believe you may be experiencing a mental health issue, please seek the assistance of a qualified mental health professional. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call or text 988 from anywhere in the U.S. to be connected to Crisis Mental Health Services.